someone has an intergalactic hangover. Season, what are we? I don't even know where we are. Season 6, episode 36. We are the Hotspur America podcast. You can find us at Hotspur America on Twitter. I'm at Ztronch. Tim is at TIMMAH621. Vass is at VCOM1. And Dan is at Yidvids. We're on Facebook. Pod can be found on a whole bunch of places. Spotify, Spreaker, just about everywhere you can find a pod. And we have a YouTube. So find us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Now, we're going to do things a little bit backwards today. Well, first of all, how is everybody? Timmy, I'll start with you. You all right? Everything good?
Fucking fantastic. Football's coming back.
Yes.
How could I not be good right now?
And a little bit of golf today, too.
Hey, golf's back also. Love it. Been watching it, not moving from my couch. Hardly did any work in the office on Friday. I was just watching golf.
Man, Timmy is so buzzed. He's running topless in 92-degree heat.
Yeah, man. Boobies are flapping. People honking horns at you. What do you think they were honking horns because they rate you as sexy, or they're like, man, put the shirt on?
I don't know. I think I got a little bit of both.
If it was me, it'd definitely put the shirt on.
Vash, you celebrated birthdays today, right? How old is Kiri?
Oh. He's old enough to make me feel really old. He just turned 32 today. So yeah,
amazing.
We spent some
you
time
started young.
Yeah.
Daniel, you had a little bit of a drinking session.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit delicate, and it's the evening here. I wouldn't mind going to bed, so if we could carry on this. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding.
I'll make it quick. All right, so we start back up. We start back up next week. Is it? Days aren't running together. Timmy, when's the match? Is it Friday or is it Saturday? Friday. Wow. Friday. And so instead of going into the match like we normally would, we're actually going to start with injuries, and then we'll talk about the match, right?
That is right. Looking at the week ahead, just one match, Manchester United. Unfortunately, we all heard the news that came down, Dele Alli out with the one-match ban from the FA. Troy Parrott is also out recovering from an appendectomy. He won't return to training until the end of June, so he'll be out for a few weeks, a few games. Son, there's no reported injury. I know there's been a lot floating around with his knee being wrapped up in the friendly, but he took place in the friendly. We'll talk about that a little later on. The one to keep an eye on, Giovanni Lo Celso. It's a concern right now. There's no pictures showing any contract training, any participation in the friendly. He wasn't in the Spurs 11v11, so it's not sure if he even participated in Norwich. So that's a question right now, his fitness levels, whether he's going to be ready to go. And so keep an eye on that as it gets later in the week. We may get some more news on Lo Celso. Looking at Man United, they're pretty much fully fit. Pogba and Rashford both recovered from their own injuries during the shutdown. They should be available for selection. And unfortunately for us, probably fortunately for them, Phil Jones has a minor knock. I think we would want him out there, but it's looking like he may not be available. He did miss their 11v11 training match this past week, so that's one to keep an eye on. And I think for once, a rare occurrence, we are all hoping that a player recovers for injury from an opposing team.
All right, so we've got a number of issues that we will address and decompact with a little bit later on with listener questions as well. I guess we'll start with the match, and I'll start with you, Vass. I mean, how important is this match?
Huge, I would say. I mean, ordinarily, you if a season was starting, you'd be in pre-season right now, and it would be the first game of 38. So you just take it and see how you go. But as it is right now, it's the first game in our run-in. So 9 games left. This is the first one. It's one of our direct competitors for the top 4 or 5 places. And a win is a must. So it's hugely important right now, Sam.
So I'll ask you this, Dan. If no question, it's important. Is all hope lost if we don't get a result here? Say if we get a draw, or God forbid if we lose.
It's a difficult one. I think because it's Man United, I think if we lose, I think the gap between us and them would be 6. Would that be right? A lot to make up in 8 games. I mean, it's not completely over. Nothing's over. But Kane said it himself. We need to win 8 out of the 9 left matches. So, we lose this. It's 8 out of 8 pretty much. So I don't know. I think a draw wouldn't be the end of the world, but a loss would really put us under the cosh for the last 8 games.
Yeah, and Dan, I just looked at it. It'll be 7-point gap.
7 points, yeah. Which is a lot.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
I mean, and do you think, Tim, that this is really? I mean, obviously, important match aside, do you think this sets the tempo? This sets the level of expectation, the brand of football, the style of football, how well we play on Friday is basically going to be representative of what we should expect for the other 8 matches?
I think so. This is the one that you have to be the most up for. And so, you look at this compared to our next match, West Ham. I mean, this is the one that really does set the tempo. This is the one that you're going to be going all out for. It's a top 4 competitor. And what Dan was talking about, having to overcome that points, that's the point differential to 5th place, not the 4th. And we don't have a decision from City yet. They finished their appeal process this last week, but there won't be an announcement until July on whether their ban is going to continue from the Champions League. So we don't know. At this point, you got to go for top 4. And you lose this one, you're 7 points off of 5th. I think, pretty much all hope is lost if you don't get a result in this match. So for me, it is our biggest match of the season so far.
I think it's only fair that I ask you this, Vass. To me, I think manager performance is going to be so important here. So let's talk about that matchup. Let's talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer versus Mourinho. Before I talk about the matchup as it relates to Friday's match, let's take a step back and let's talk about when they met the last time and maybe what the lessons learned could be and what you expect manager versus manager on Friday.
Well, the game, the previous game at Old Trafford clearly didn't go very well for us. I mean, I know at one point we were sort of back in the game when Dele Alli scored a really good goal, but it just felt like we didn't compete for the whole game. And in some ways, Jose got, I don't know if schooled is the right word. Maybe it's a bit harsh, but
he got out-jobbed.
Yeah, Ollie definitely got one over on Jose, as did Frank Lampard for Chelsea on 2 separate occasions this season. So he hasn't fared well against his former players so far. Now, it will be interesting this Friday how it works out and see whether Jose reverts to type and just allows Manchester United to come onto us and just wait for us to hit them on the break. But certainly he'll have a full quota of players to choose from, apart from perhaps Lo Celso, as Timmy said. So he's really equipped much better now than possibly he was on the previous occasion. So how this one pans out will tell us a lot about the way the club is going and how we will end the season.
Tim, you're ever reminding us to... No, hang on. Before you, I want to ask you this, because if there's anybody on the pod, and I'm, by no means am I trying to out you, but you've always been encouraging of us to give him a chance, right? So give me reasons to be optimistic about Mourinho's approach to Friday.
Well, the squad that's available at his disposal now, having 5 subs available, I think you're going to see that managers in these games, how fast they're going to come, the congestion that there's going to be just to fit this schedule in, they're going to make use of all 5 of those subs. So I think his experience is going to give him that, hopefully, the leg up over Ole. But the thing I was going to say is that, Manchester United, the scary thing about them is they really get up for these big matches. You look at this season, they've taken 3 for 3 against Chelsea. They've gone 3 for 4 against City. They beat us our last time out, and they took a draw against Liverpool. So these matches against, big 6 teams, top 4 competition, they really get up for it, and we kind of struggle to do that. So, the other thing that I would say is your little glimmer of hope is I don't think it can go worse than it did last time. At least I hope so.
Don't say that. I can't believe you
That's right.
That.
Hey, well, okay, Dr. Tottenham, we'll see you now.
Well, let me ask you this, because I didn't know that, and that's an incredible array of stats there against big teams. But most of those were without Paul Pogba. So Dan, I'll ask you this: Do you think that is good or bad that Pogba is going to be included likely on Friday?
I don't know whether he'll start or not. He's not playing any football for the last 8 months or so, but I still don't know what to make of Pogba. I think either you look at him and think he's absolutely brilliant, but then at the same time you sort of think, he gets a lot of stick from even some of the Man United fans. So I'm not too sure about him, but I think Bruno's the one to look out for. I think he looks like a decent player, albeit after 6 or 7 games that he's played. Just picking up on what Timmy said about Man United being good against the bigger teams, I think they like to sit in and counter-attack. But if you listen to Ben Davis's post-match interview against Norwich, his words, not mine, he said, yeah, we played really well against Norwich. We dominated the game. They had loads of possession, but we were still in control of it. So I think that gives you a good insight into what our tactics are going to be against Man United, which, as much as I dig him out for, I think maybe against Man United, a team who like the team to come on to them and to counter them might be the best approach. So
it might not be. One of the interesting things that might come out of this is how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mindset is going to be affected, because if Manchester United progress, let's say, to the final of the Europa League or even to the FA Cup final also, because they're still in that competition, there's potentially 16 games left for Manchester United to play between now and the end of the season. So I don't know if that would mess with his head, but given that this is the first game, possibly he will go all out and then see how things evolve after that. But it certainly would be a test for him also, starting again on Friday.
I think I'll just leave it at I'll just leave it at this, Tim. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, me. All right.
Okay, I was gonna say
here's the only thing I'm afraid of. The only thing I'm really afraid of is that with him, right? Like the detractors will say that he's a dinosaur, that his days, like modern football, is passing him by. And the 5 subs, right, is something new. And you've got to take a progressive approach to it. You've got to be, in my mind, you've got to be creative. You've got to, I think, whoever sort of uses that in the most creative type of tactical and strategic way, I think stands a chance to make the biggest influence, particularly in this match. And I just worry that at a time where you've got sort of, all of these different fresh players at your disposal and a way to really incorporate them, I fear that he'll be overwhelmed. I fear that he won't be adapting. And I feel if we don't get a result, that'll be really sort of depressing, if you will, going forward. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The delay is a bit awkward today.
So I was going to follow up with what Dan was saying about Ben Davies' comments, and that's what really kind of has me scared of this match. If we do see that Pogba and Fernandes pairing, is that they're going to be very creative in the midfield, very attack heavy on it. They would likely have Matic sitting behind them doing a 4-3-3. But if you're going Pogba and Fernandes, and we're deploying the tactic of kind of like sitting back, letting them come at us, that's giving them too much freedom. And that has me extremely concerned. That's kind of the one major thing I'm looking out for in this game is if those two start together, Pogba and Fernandes, how are we going to approach that? Because I think if you sit back with them, it's going to be the death of you. I think you're just going to have too much pressure on you, and it's just how long can you hold it off before one goes in? I think you get the inevitable. If it's just going to be wave after wave after wave of attack, and I would hate to see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's to blunt question. I mean, are we good enough defensively to park the bus against a team like United?
I don't think we are, not given what we've seen so far this season. We've been conceding goals at an alarming rate, and we've been setting up defensively, well, not very well. The only thing I can think of is we obviously have to negate whatever's going on in Man United midfield, and that may just come down to a question of outnumbering them in midfield. So, do you go 4-4-2 so that you've got 4 in midfield to their 3, or do you even play 4-4-1-1 and have the person behind Kane just dropping into that midfield area from time to time just to create extra numbers? But from a defensive standpoint, no. I mean, we know we've got issues at fullback. Our centre-back pairings haven't been settled for a while. We don't know really which our best pairing is right now. So there are concerns, but it's about what we can do higher up the pitch, I think, in this particular game, and how effective our attacking threat is going to be. So we need to, I think, counter the midfield by outnumbering them there, and then being effective when we get the ball in an attacking sense.
Dan, I hate to ask you to sort of try and defend a defensive tactical strategy that Mourinho might employ, but trying to use a rational mind, why would you institute that kind of philosophy, especially first game of the season coming back with, such a critical run of matches to come, and this being obviously, paramount?
Well, there's two reasons. So I especially think it against United. I think Tim was right at what he's saying about Fernandes and Pogba, how good they are at sort of manipulating the ball in the midfield. However, history shows this season that Man United do struggle to break down teams, especially at Old Trafford, who sit there and don't do a lot. And I think also another point on why I think we will see some defensive football is that without fans in the stadium, there's nothing there to groan when you lump the ball forward and it just comes back again, and there's no. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a good point. I think it will happen, because I mean, players are not going to have that sort of pressure to feel I need to run forward, I need to be super quick getting out. It's more, I'm just doing my job. No one's having to go at me for doing my job and sitting in front of the 18-yard box. It's not really what I like to see. However, I think if he does play it next Friday, I will understand why, especially against Man United. I think the problem comes when we play Norwich at home and we're doing something similar, but that's a different debate.
All right, so we don't have Dele. And Tim, I'll start with you. I mean, what kind of tactical challenges or opportunities, for that matter, does this present us with him being out?
I mean, it's a key player who's integral to Mourinho's plans. We've seen that from the beginning, right when he took over this squad. He loves Dele. He's going to give him those opportunities. But I would say, if I'm in that position, I don't change anything at all as far as formation or tactics. I would still probably go out with a 4-2-3-1 and try and overload that midfield. I don't want to get stuck with a 4-3-3 and have a situation where we've committed too many forwards up there. Also, you're going 4-3-3. Think about the fullbacks you're going up against, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. It's not like you're really going to be getting behind them with speed. So I have a concern with committing that many bodies forward when we're talking about needing to close down their midfield if they're going with Bruno and Pogba together. So tactically, I don't think I would change anything. I think I would still go 4-2-3-1. The opportunity that it opens up for, though, is I think I would use, given the players that might be out of this game, Dele, Lo Celso not at full fitness, if that's a concern, in that 10 spot, I would actually use Ndombele. He's very creative. He can hold the ball up. You can play through him. He could be, he picks out that pass very easily, threading it through defenders for Kane. I would put Ndombele in there also if you're worried about, at least if one of your midfielders is going to stay up from a fitness standpoint. He's probably the one you don't want having to track back on a really long run from Fernandes and having to keep pace with him. So that's who I think it opens up an opportunity for, is for Ndombele to play in the 10 spot, and let's see how he does in that role.
Then who's going to be the holding midfielder, Vass, if we're going to allow Ndombele that kind of freedom?
Well, I think if we're playing 4-2-3-1, as Timmy suggests, then it's going to be 2 from 3. It's going to be the defensive 2 will be from Sissoko, Dyer and Winks. They're really our only options from a defensive mindset. I suspect Mourinho might just go with Dyer and Sissoko, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Dyer and Winks.
Anybody else? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm pretty confident that Dyer will start, I think.
I think Sissoko will start.
I think he will too, especially with Ndombele, if Ndombele is going to feature. You have a thought there, Tim?
On Sissoko?
No, just whether it be Sissoko or Dyer. I know you always have thoughts on Sissoko.
No, I mean, I definitely think Sissoko should start this game, because you're talking about players with some speed that United's going to have. Rashford's going to be back. They're going to have Martial up there. Fernandez. Fred isn't the slowest. They're going to have their wingbacks bombing up in Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. We've seen Dyer this season as he's been working back from these injuries. He's had trouble keeping up sometimes. Sometimes the game has passed him by. So if Sissoko is fully fresh, ready to go, he's definitely the one that I would want in there. And also, we know how much of an impact that has on Aurier. It gives him more freedom to push forward, whip in across. He can cover for him. I don't know if Dyer could cover on the wing for Aurier, because that's going to be the wing that probably Martial's playing on, and Dyer's not going to keep up with him.
Are we ruling out Dyer playing at centre back?
No,
I'm not. I actually think that might be more likely than him playing in the midfield.
Yeah, it's possible, definitely.
I think pairing. I think I would go with the Dyer Sissoko pairing, though.
You would.
I would. So I wouldn't rule Dyer out. I would go with the Dyer Sissoko pairing in that. I would just have Sissoko on the right side with Aurier, not Dyer over there.
So, all right. So, what do you think is what do you think? Where do you think this match is going to be won? Vass, I'll start with you. What's the most important thing in your eyes in terms of getting a result here? What's got to happen?
Midfield. Control the ball. You got to get at the hold of the ball, and whoever controls it better in midfield will win the game. I think from an attacking standpoint, they've got a talented attack. They'll have Martial, they'll have Rashford back, and they'll be quite productive up front and give our defenders a hard time. But then at the other end of the pitch, we've got Kane, Son, possibly Lucas or Bergwijn, maybe Lamela. I don't know. Depends who plays in the midfield. So I think both teams have a good attacking edge and some defensive frailties, but it's the midfield that will win the game either way, I think.
Yeah, I think we'll all agree on that. All right, so
real quick, Sammy, I would add to that the midfield, but also where you start the press at. If you're doing a low block, you're going to give their midfielders too much freedom to pick out that long ball. And that's what's really lethal about both Fernandez and Pogba is they have that long range passing ability. So if you're set up where you overload the midfield, but you're not pressing them until they get in your own half, I think you're fucking yourself. And that's really kind of one of the main things that concerns me with Jose is he doesn't like to play that high press. And I really think that would be beneficial in this game to not give them time on the ball to pick out those long passes.
Right. Two good questions from Tim Alexander at TIMMAH621. He asks, well, what's the one thing
that guy asked some great questions.
Man, he's fucking brilliant. Well, what's one thing, Vass, I'll start with you, that scares you the most about Man U? And then, Dan, I'll tee you up about the thing that you think that Man U should be most scared about in regards to us.
Okay. Two things about Man U that scare me. One is their pace up front, and two is Bruno Fernandes. I love that player. I really wish we'd have signed him, but he seems to have energized that team, and since his arrival, he appears to have been that missing link that they were waiting for. Yeah. So we need to neutralize him somehow, and we need to defend well. But they're the two things from Man U that do concern me.
And then Dan in return?
Yeah, well, it's just Harry Kane, isn't it? And it's Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. I mean, that's about the two biggest prongs of attack we've got. I was going to say our defensive capabilities on the right side, but probably not. Yeah, I just think Harry Kane coming back. I mean, he's been out so long that we don't know what Harry Kane's going to come back. Tim made a great point on that last week about he takes a couple of games to get back up to fitness sometimes, but I'm just hoping he hits the ground running, really, because I mean I miss watching him. I think he can win a game on his own if he's on it, which he usually is. He can win us the game. So it's going to be nice to it's going to be nice to see Mourinho's tactics with a front man, because towards the end of before this all kicked off, the last January and February, he was playing those same tactics with Lucas up front, and it was just a disaster, lobbing it to him, and he couldn't hold the ball up to save his life. but Kane can, and he can bring players like Lucas and Son into the game. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to.
Tim, if there's one weakness at United, who should we be trying to exploit?
I think their main weakness would be if Phil Jones starts, definitely him. But I don't think he's going to. But
surely not.
No, he's not going to. There's not too many weaknesses. If you
not even
say
Luke
anything,
Shaw?
Or, not really. He's been doing all right this season coming back. I would say probably if they man up Harry Maguire on Harry Kane, that's going to leave their other defender open to being attacked if they're committing him towards Kane. So I think that might be where the weakness is. And with Maguire, usually I think that could exploit it for Sonny to go at the other center back. So that's probably where I would say you look at it.
If Sonny can get at Maguire, that's the big one, because Maguire's not the paciest, is he? If Sonny can get around the back of them, I think will it be Bailly who plays with him?
Lindelof probably.
Or Lindelof. I mean, again, he's a
Lindelof,
player, but
yeah.
he's not the most quick. I think if we can get Sonny at them and maybe even Lucas, that's where you want to go.
Because if they're doing a back four, Harry Maguire will be playing on the left side. Mm-hmm. So with Sonny playing on our left side, that kind of opens up him attacking their other center back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think also maybe get in and around Matic, because he's liable to make some fouls, and we could exploit that. Mm-hmm. So get in and around Matic. He's not as quick as he used to be. He can be quite cumbersome at time. He'll end up in the book, and get him in there a second time, and suddenly they're a man down, and the game's going to change. So I'm kind of hoping for a sending off here, but
right. Well, and Vass, that's a good shout. That could be the place to exploit, because if they're going, with like a 4-3-3 with Matic behind Bruno and Pogba, he's going to be isolated by himself if they're committing bodies forward. So that might be actually the place where you exploit it. And that's why I'm saying start Tengi up there in the 10 spot, because that would be him going up against Matic. And man, that guy's got some skills with the ball. He is going to break some ankles if it's him versus Matic one-on-one.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want getting sent off though, too.
Look, I'd be totally fine. I'm totally fine with parking the bus as long as you free Tanguy. Like, just fucking let him go, right? I'm totally right there with you. All right, so look, if I heard you all correctly, sounds like 4-2-3-1 is kind of the consensus formation here, right? So if that's the case, Vass, start with the back four, and you two chime in if you have anything else to add.
Okay, so it'll be from right to left: Aurier, Sanchez, Toby, and Davies.
All right.
Agreed.
All right.
I'd still play Vertonghen in there, but I think I'm a bit married to him, to be honest. So, I still think he's better than Sanchez. I'm sorry. I just think he is. I know he's not the best player in the world. But
I wouldn't have a problem, to be honest, if that happened. But yeah,
I would have a problem with that. And the reason is you're looking at the pace you're going up against now that they have Rashford back and Martial, and that's where I think you play Sanchez. You're going to have a lot of games. Vertonghen is going to play. I would say save him for the midweek game against, or the next week's game against West Ham. Our next matchup. Don't put him in this one when you're going up against that pace. Sanchez and Toby aren't going to be able to start every game. Tanganga is going to get some runs at center back. Vertonghen is. I would say for this one, hold off on Vertonghen. So I'd agree with Vass's initial back four.
Yeah.
All right. So we made the case for a midfield two with either Winks and Sissoko or Dyer and Sissoko. That's safe to say.
Yeah. I think Dyer and Sissoko probably.
All right. Yeah. So let's talk about the three. Dan, I'll let you start.
Well, Sonny on the left. It just depends on Lo Celso, really, doesn't it? I think if Lo Celso's fit, he plays. I think he plays in the 10. Does Lamela play? I don't know. I know what I'd do is I'd put Lo Celso in the 10, Son on the left, and maybe Lucas or Bergwijn on the right, and play. So you can go from a 4-2-3-1 to like a 4-3-3. I think that's what Mourinho might do, purely because Harry Kane can hold the ball up and then ping him sort of round the back. So it's a tricky one. We've got quite a lot of good players in that position.
We do. We really do.
Yeah.
Tim?
And if Lo Celso's fit, I'm with Dan. I'm putting him in the 10, but that's going to change who I'm putting in my holding two midfielders, because I'm putting in Tanguy in there. If he's ready to go, he's starting this game. But I'm going with the premise that Lo Celso's fitness may not be up there if he's not playing these training matches, so he may not start this game. And so that's where I'm going with this lineup, and I'm going to go across the three. The left side, right side, I'm giving Stevie B.
So we lost you there briefly, Tim.
I'm lagging again. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna try and say it real quickly that hopefully I can get it through. Left side Sonny, middle Tanguy, right side Stevie B. That's who I'm going with it. I'm going Bergwijn with the start on this game.
All right, so we're 70 minutes in. The match is tied 1-1. Jose has got to make one influential sub. Fast, who's it going to be?
Based on the lineup that we've chosen.
And I'll tell you, and I'll ask that question saying, actually, Ndombele will start, and Lo Celso is injured, or not 100% match fit.
I'd probably say Lamela. It would be him or Lucas. I would fancy, but I'd probably opt for Lamela, because Lamela, I know he's got his critics, and he's got an injury past, no question. Him and Harry Kane, for that matter, have probably just come off the longest rest either of them have had for quite a while. And I'm hoping that we get a fully fit, firing Kane and also a Lamela. And if that's the case, then I'll probably bring Lamela on for the last 20, and hopefully he can find Harry Kane with one of those nice little through balls that he can give.
Tim, I want to ask you this. Is having 5 subs, is that ultimately bad for players that can't grow into games? The manager's not going to sort of allow a rhythm to be established and for a player to sort of work his way into being an influence? Does it really change things now that we've got 5 subs like this?
I think they'll still allow a rhythm to be established. I don't think you'll see first half subs going unless it's something that really needs to be done, like Dyer coming off against Olympiacos. Unless it's a situation where it's just not working, you'll be able to get through the first half and assess. So I still don't think you're going to be seeing, pre-55th minute subs, even though you have 5 available.
I think you'll see a few more at half-time. I think you might more see the odd one, whereas as half-time sub was rare unless you were losing. I think people might make one at half-time. And I've seen
maybe,
it in a lot
especially at the start now that things get back underway, Dan.
Yeah, I think a lot of the German football they were making quite a few subs at halftime. The ones I watched anyway, but it was kind of weird to see triple substitutions being made, because you're like, oh, he's playing them all at once, but then you realise he's got 2 more. So yeah.
All right, we're gonna go
that could be where Jose has the. I was gonna say that could be where Jose has the edge in this, making a tactical change at halftime. Now that you're afforded 5 subs, you bring in 2 guys, you completely switch up the formation you're going with, catch them off guard going in the second half.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I mean, that's the one thing I'd like to. I really want to hope from him is sort of a novel, creative approach to using these 5 subs and outfoxing and outguiling Solskjaer. So we'll see when that happens. All right, quick fire questions. We're going to start with the beard at JPF 920. Each of you make a call on points that Spurs takes in the remaining games. Whoever finishes last has to record in a full Arsenal kit for the YouTube. Worst part is that means the loser needs to buy it. I'm not sure we're going to take that up. It's a clever idea. Which, by the way, speaking of that, this guy should have more followers. He comes up with funny shit like this. He really does, man.
He does.
He's at JPF 920. He's got like 50 fucking followers, and I can't figure it out. Either that or we really have terrible sense of humor. All right. I'll start with you, Tim. I mean, how many points out of these matches are we going to get? It's 9, right?
9 matches, yeah.
9 matches.
9 matches. I think when we recorded earlier, I think I said 15 points.
I think you said
4 wins, 2 draws.
17 last week. I think you said 5 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses last week.
Did I say 17?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever I said last time. 17
All right.
Take that.
All right, Bass. Seeing as you're the policeman here, how many?
I'll call 19 points.
Whoa, where are we going?
Oh.
Where are we going here? Timmy, what are you
Timmy, what are you doing, mate?
Are we going to the lingerie section?
Timmy, you're live on YouTube.
Timmy, what are you doing? You're live, mate.
I think he's trying to get closer to his router.
Oh my God. Oh, is he? Okay. All right. While he's.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a better internet connection here. I had to go closer to the router.
That feels better, yeah.
All right. Okay. Hey, you know what? Blur your screen because you got a really white background. All right. Dan, how many points?
If we win on Friday.
Gotcha.
If we win on Friday, I think. Oh, where's he going? If we win on Friday, I reckon 19 points, like Vass, maybe 20. If we lose on Friday, I reckon about 12, 11.
Oh, fucking hell.
Well, because the problem is towards the end of the season, if we've got no chance with 5 games to go, no motivation, no crowd there, it's just going to flunk. The season could just completely tail off with nothing to play for. So, I don't know. All depends on Friday.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I think it goes back to that question about, how important is this match? It really does set the tone. And if we could come up with a result, I think it would brighten spirits. It would give us something to be optimistic about. I'm terrible at this shit. We're gonna get 82 points. Austin Bazan, NATX Bazan. My question is about Delhi. If we play well without him against United, does Marino keep that same lineup against the Hammers? This is a great question. Is Delhi an integral part of our starting 11? Vass.
Yes, he is, in short. I think he'll come straight back in against West Ham, and that will be primarily because Jose will make a few changes from one game to the next. So that's Timmy's throwing me off so badly.
Oh man, you're getting us so off kilter, Timmy. With your panoramic views.
I think it should be good now. I got more bars.
Okay.
You're good, man. You're good.
Okay.
Although I left my phone in the other room, now I gotta go get that.
No, you can't. You can't go get your phone.
What if you're sending me like really important messages? We're not. What if I need to tell you like you are messing up and I gotta like type it in?
Yeah, what was I saying? I don't even remember.
You're talking about Delhi is important.
Oh, Delhi, yeah.
Would we essentially keep the same result next week if Delhi's not in this lineup, but we get a result?
Yeah. No, I think he'll come straight back in. I think he's an integral part of our 3, and he'll play ahead of a Bergwijn or a Lucas or somebody like that. Whoever's going to start against Manchester United.
All right.
And with the question, I don't think you keep the same lineup against the Hammers just because of the congestion you're going to have. You're going to have to rotate.
And look, I mean, they're not the same team. Your tactical approach should be different against a West Ham versus a United. All right. This is the topic that I have been waiting to fucking talk about. This comes to us from Neil Carter at COQ, Cock_O Ginge. Your top 3 players as females. Now, this was a thread that made the rounds on Twitter early this week, and I guess I don't know how they did it. I don't know whether there's an app that allows you. Well, clearly there's an app that does this, but it basically took players in their kits and showed them they were female. And I'm just gonna say this: Janet Gazzaniga is hot as shit. She's smoking, so take her off the list. But Dan, I'll start with you. Your top 3 Spurs as females.
Do you know, I feel horrible even saying this. What sort of question is this?
I even have this fired up on my Twitter. I have them all.
So I was quite. Lascelles.
Damn, look at Gazzaniga.
Lascelles look good as a female. And I thought Sessegnon looked pretty good as well. He's got some nice female features that obviously translated really well on that app. There was some funny ones though. I urge you to go and check them out if you haven't seen them.
Actually, as we're speaking, I'm going to tweet the thread out on the Hotspur America Twitter feed. So go and check it out if you've got Twitter.
Who is the scariest? Who is the scariest?
The scariest?
Yeah.
I think Sanchez, the woman, was quite scary.
I thought Aurier was.
And Delhi as well.
He looks like Michelle Obama. He did. He really did.
Yeah, but no, some of them did actually We're very good looking. I mean, Gazzaniga looks great as a bloke, doesn't he? So, I mean, put a dress on him and a wig, then you're away, really, aren't you? But
it's the eyes.
Yeah.
It's those eyes.
He's got some beautiful eyes.
I thought Jensen looks kind of sexy too.
Jensen was good as well, but I think, Gazzaniga, Lo Celso, even Winks was a tad attractive.
Winks looks like who's you'll know this, Tim. Who's the chick on Harry Potter? That's who Winks' character looked
Emma
like.
Watson.
Yeah, Emma Watson. Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was hilarious. It was really funny, and I'm glad that we got asked that by Neil. So thank you. All right, so this week at Spurs we had a friendly, and it was. I guess, I don't suppose we were the only team that did this, but I guess we played a series of sort of 15-minute periods. There were only 3 goals between all of it. I think the latter 2 15 periods was a lot of mix and match, Sammy, a lot of young players. Yeah.
They're 30-minute periods, so it was 4 30-minute quarters.
Okay.
Because we were supposed to have the friendly against, was it Reading?
Yeah.
Is that who they won? And they had someone test positive, so that got canceled, and instead of that, we just extended this one into, instead of 1 90-minute game, 4 30-minute quarters.
Well, I'll start with you. Is it right for folks on Twitter to have a meltdown here because we had all these 30-minute periods and we only scored 1 goal?
If you're having a meltdown over a behind closed doors friendly where youth players are the ones who let in our 2 goals, you have some fucking problems. This is not what you need to be concerned about. Absolutely. And that's my understanding of what it was, is when we had our full strength, we were up 1-0. It wasn't until the 4th quarter when we brought in a bunch of really young players, and that's when we let in those 2 goals. Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, it wasn't I think Mourinho after the game was very apparent by saying, This wasn't a football match. This was basically a training session. I mean, I don't know whether he'd have said it if we'd have won 3-1, but that was what he tried to get across, that this was just literally Norwich and Tottenham playing in a completely uncompetitive friendly as a training session.
I want to melt down about this.
Of course you do.
Why? This is a fucking travesty.
The Sam's off
1
again.
fucking goal against bottom of the table Norwich.
Yeah.
No. I mean, even I'm gonna tap the brakes. I mean, look. I mean, Chelsea banged in 7 yesterday, but to be fair, I think they only scored 1 in their first one. Fucking Arsenal lost to Brentford. I mean, it's a bit like the NFL preseason. You can't get worked up about this stuff. I mean, it's just about getting minutes and just about getting in the swing of things, I think. Tim, this is pretty disgraceful that you allowed for this question and that somebody tagged you. I think this is really more about you sort of patting yourself on the shoulder. But anyway, at Tom Boulder, he tagged it. The pod was tagged also. Oh, he was? Okay, all right. I'm just giving you shit. At Tom Bodler, that's Bowdler, tagged us in David L's tweet showing a picture of Son's knee wrapped up. And obviously, Tim, I mean, you should be tagged here because it's about an injury. And you mentioned it, but has there been any follow-on? Is there anything to worry about here?
I don't think there's anything to worry about with it. I mean, all the time players have tape on, they have something wrapped up. If this really was a concern, there's no way Son's going out in a friendly before we have the biggest game of our season. There's absolutely no way you're risking that if there is a concern there. And what I look at it is the tape, the wrappings, yes, it goes around the knee, but it's not going down the sides of either. So to me, that's saying it might be more of a quad issue, some muscle soreness. It doesn't really indicate to me that there's concerns with like a ACL, MCL, any of those muscles that can be real problematic that go down the sides of the knee. So that's what I got from that picture, is looking at where the tape is.
So, I hope you're right. Sorry, explain, what was this picture? Because I never saw it.
It was just pictures that the club put out from the training, and somebody zoomed in on Son's knee, which is really wrapped up and taped. It's really around his quad, is
was he
kind of wrapped
at
around.
The time, or was he just sitting out?
He's playing.
Okay.
It's a picture of his protective tape playing. I mean, look at Dele. Every single game, Dele has that tape on. So I don't think there's much to be concerned.
Yeah. Okay.
To be fair, Tanganga's kind of hot in this thing too.
That's who my third was, because of course everyone's gonna pick Lo Celso and Gazzaniga. So my third was actually Tanganga.
All right, I gotta get my shit together. Where am I? So you mentioned that we didn't have a Reading match or warm up because they had a COVID test positive, and turns out the Norwich did as well. So what's the scuttlebutt here? And I'll leave this with you again, Tim.
Well, so the testing is done Thursdays, and so Monday and Tuesday you get your results on Wednesday. Thursday and Friday you get your results by Saturday. Well, the testing was done Thursday and Friday. We had that friendly on Friday. Results didn't come out. Saturday results come out after our friendly, and well, one of the Norwich players that featured in the friendly was tested positive. And so now the concerns are, what happens? Is there a potential outbreak? I think one of the things the club is saying is that, the guidelines for it is close contact for 15 minutes within 2 meters, and that never happened here. I'm thinking, like, what if this player was the goalkeeper? And looking at the score line, we only had 1 goal. I don't think there was close contact there.
So you're going to be...
That's also
Are you going to be scouring Norwich training video on Monday and Tuesday, trying to pick out the player that's not there?
I might. But that's also why United didn't have their training, is they were supposed to have a friendly match against Stoke, and Stoke's manager came down with a positive result. And so theirs got called off. So at least going into this, we have competitive friendly against another Premier League club. They don't even have a competitive friendly against a Premier League club, a championship club. They're just doing 11 on 11 their own. So I think that's a leg up on us. But I think, Vass and Dan are probably the ones to speak more to this on what the UK's protocol is for testing and why it's different for sport.
I think the Premier League are doing their own testing, or they're funding it themselves in any case, and that's why they're able to test on such a regular basis each week and get the results of those tests quite quickly. Joe Public, if you do test, you have to wait a certain number of days until you get the results, and then if you come back with a positive test, then the track and trace system is supposed to kick in, and all the people that you've been in contact with recently will be contacted, and they will be advised to self-isolate for up to 14 days. Now, clearly, that's not the case with footballers because of the fact that they are being tested on such a regular basis. The only other people, I guess, footballers are in contact with will be their immediate families at home. So I don't really know how that works. But there seems to be a bigger issue here, because it's quite clear that clubs still have the odd case cropping up every now and again. So, you have to wonder whether restarting the football is wise, if you want to take that view. And I think that question still remains unanswered.
Well, I think, the previous positive within our own squad gives hope that you can restart, because we had a player within our own squad test, and if it takes, the 24 hours to 48 hours to get those results back, he wouldn't have known when he took that test. We would have undergone training, and nobody else in our squad came down positive for it.
Did we ever find out who that was?
No.
We haven't. So. I have my speculation.
Who do you suspect that is?
I am speculating that it was Davinson Sanchez, because I think Giovanni Lo Celso's absence is more so due to fitness issues. That's why he's still not shown in, any of these contact trainings or these friendlies. Davinson Sanchez was one of the players who was gone for a few days, and then he came back and immediately starts taking place in these friendlies. So that's who my speculation is on the player that tested positive. A lot of people thought it was Lo Celso, but I really think these recent friendlies have shown that maybe there's something else going on with him.
All right, let's move away from COVID. I don't want to say I'm tired of COVID, but we're all tired of COVID. But COVID is what COVID is. Yeah. COVID is what COVID is. Delhi's one-match ban. It's a sensitive topic. Dan, guide us through what he did all those months ago.
So this was, I think it was February. I think he was in an airport. I think he was flying on his the mid-season break. I think they were going to Dubai. The story is
when he went to party with Troy Parrott.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't believe looking back, it's crazy they allowed them to go, really. But anyway, so they were having a group chat conversation, and then they were all talking about COVID and blah 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 blah. Deli says he saw someone in the airport who was coughing, and so he made a joke as if the man coughing had COVID-19. It was just so happened that it was an Asian man, and obviously at the time China was a big hotbed of COVID. He put it in his private Snapchat story. Someone who he probably shouldn't have let on there has screen recorded it or done something with it and sent it into a group chat, who's then expanded and it's gone viral. Kyle Walker-Peters instantly actually stuck up for him into the hearing, as far as I'm aware, but it wasn't enough, and he's got a one-match ban. So
yeah, I think he said something along the lines of, well, when he recorded it, that COVID will have to move real fast because it won't catch me or something like that. He just made a snarky joke about COVID, but it was just unfortunate that he flicked his camera phone onto an Asian gentleman with maybe even a face covering. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he had a mask on.
Yeah. So that didn't go down too well. So we had all this kind of racism allegations against him at the time and what have you. So listen, he got a one-match ban. I think it could have been worse. I think the punishment is sufficient for the crime, and he's just got to get on with it now.
I still want to ask whether there should have been punishment, because I honestly don't know, but I guess it's only one, and to your point, that seems manageable, and I guess it just does. If not for any other reason, I suppose it just teaches a player you got to be careful. Your private words aren't private; they can be misconstrued. They may not have been intent, and maybe that's just how he should look at it. I mean, are we living in a world where we're hypersensitive to things? Yeah, we are. I mean, that's just the real reality of it all. So,
I think, real quick, I think in the current climate, one game ban is very fortunate. But it's just the timing of it that I have an issue with. Yeah. 1 week prior to a huge match, 4 months after the fact. I mean, what's been going on this entire time that you couldn't have conducted these proceedings and let us know much more in advance that this was coming down? That's my biggest issue with it, is the timing of the ban and why it's coming 4 months after the fact. What about all the other players who have done something racist? Now our ban's coming down for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, that question was brought to us by somebody from Facebook, Matthew Palaic. We appreciate the question there. What could this mean for Dyer and a potential suspension? What's all that about?
Yeah, when is his hearing?
Oh, of course, that's right. I forgot. He trounced up. He went up in the stands. So surely he's going to get a suspension here.
I would say so. Yeah, and I think it will be multiple games as well.
But why is his not happened, but Delhi's has?
Right.
I don't really understand.
Good question. I don't know.
No.
Do you think political sensitivity has anything to do with it? Do you think just COVID is trumping running up into the stands?
I think it was just timing. Delhi's happened in February. They've got around to it now because football's effectively shut down for the last few months. Dyer's happened later than Delhi's, so they'll probably get around to it. Yeah, so it's just timing, I think.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
So that one's coming down on Thursday, 24 hours before our match.
Is it?
No, I'm just being very jaded with this.
It wouldn't surprise me. So watch that actually happen. Match day atmosphere. What do we think about what it was doing to create an atmosphere? Flags instead of fans. Dan, do you think this does anything?
Yes, I think to the viewer on the TV, I think it does make it an enhanced product. I did see some funny sort of sketch ups with apps that you can click on to what chant should be playing at the right time. I don't know how it's going to look. It could be kind of a bit cringe, but it could be great, because I think the German stuff was surprisingly okay. When I first heard that they were going to pump in crowd noise, I thought this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But no, it works, and I think it probably should work in the Premier League too, as long as they don't try and spoil it by doing something completely stupid, which is kind of what they usually do. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
We got our flag going out. Dallas Spurs does. Yep, Dallas Spurs does. Right. Shout out to Alan Sandler. Picked it up, sent it out DHL. We had to pay an assload amount for shipping, like $300 to get it there because the club. The club announces it, and you have like 4 days to get it to the UK in time to hang up for this first match. They have a deadline for Monday, June 15th, as they have to have it by that day to hang it up for the Man United match. And they only announced it on like Wednesday or Thursday. It was ridiculous, like the limited time that they gave us, but we expedited it. We got our flag sent over there, so hopefully it'll be hung up. Vass, I'll probably need you to pick that up from the ticket office once this is all done, because they are not going to ship it back to us.
They're not. Oh yeah, what a shocker!
Couldn't you have had the flag made in the UK and then just delivered straight to the club? It would have been easier.
It probably would have been cheaper.
Possibly, it probably would have been cheaper. The flag we do have was made in the UK. It has that fire safety certificate patch on the back of it.
Right.
Do you know whereabouts in the ground it's going to be put?
Probably someplace you can't see it. I don't know.
Camera side.
Well, the thing is, I think with these flags, likelihood is they're going to be draping them across the seats, I would suggest, particularly in the single tier stand. And that would look better visually as opposed to having loads and loads of navy blue seats just in. So I think the flags might cover up. It depends how many they get, obviously. If it's like 10 flags in the stadium, it's not going to do anything really. But if they get a good response and all the supporters clubs get a flag over, then they might have enough to cover a load of the seating. I would suggest that might be a visual enhancement to just empty seats in the stadium.
Man, I just came up with a great idea. I mean, given the fact that the Coney family, right, you're season ticket holders, you have like a family portrait. You have it over your seat.
We should have done one of them. Yeah.
Especially, definitely. Or just have the one with you sunbathing that one day.
What? Sunbathing?
Yeah.
What are you on about?
The sexiest man alive. You remember.
Change the profile picture, I think.
It's brilliant. The best.
Anybody who wants to know what we're talking about, just go look at Bass's Twitter profile right now.
Go look at the Twitter profile. That's the best. Oh, my gosh. All right. So I think we covered a lot of ground. I think we'll go ahead. Timmy?
Oh, I was just going to want to know how many takes that took. How many takes did it take to get that photo?
Hey, look at him. He's so good looking.
Just one. Did you use a filter?
Listen, my wife snapped that photo while we were on holiday one time, and so she likes it, and she told me to use it as a Twitter profile picture, so that's what I've done.
Mate, did he use a filter? There's a filter named after him.
Oh, what? Don't even go there.
The Cody filter. All right, we covered a lot of ground. Covered a lot of topics. I can't believe football's back. I can't believe it's crazy. Do we have anything else? Any shout outs? Anything before we close?
Predictions for the game?
We stopped doing predictions, Dan, because most of us hated it, to be honest.
All right, just say win, lose, or draw. Just say win, lose, or draw. Vast win, lose, or draw.
For fuck's sake, Sammy.
Sorry. Win, lose, or draw.
Win. Fuck it. Yeah, come on, you Spurs.
Tim.
You can't go against it. You have to will this one. You got to will the win.
You got to say win, haven't you? Yeah.
Nah, we're gonna get fucking rinsed.
I'm gonna be praying all week. Put my religious head on.
We're gonna get rinsed, and I'm gonna be fucking angry next week.
Oh shit.
All right, guys. Well, look, hope springs eternal, and all appendages are crossed, and hopefully we can come up with a result and then build some momentum and then do something great. I'm excited. I hate to say it, but I am. Without anything else, I'll just say, come on, you Spurs, and we'll see you next week. Coys.